I was surprised. I'm a heritage gardener, and as I learned about our forebears, they brought everything with them. They had far more variety available to them 150 years ago than we do now. I mean, I've got lists of over 1,000 different apple varieties pre-1900. So they brought them from all over the world. They tried everything. They had them regional. Apples that grew well in Christchurch were not commercial in Auckland because it was dry in Christchurch. It's humid in Auckland. They knew this, and we've lost all this knowledge. And we've stopped growing apples commercially in Auckland because it's easier in Hawke's Bay. And the varieties that did well here have gone. We've lost so much. We've lost 95% of the varieties we used to have. And they were used for good reason. They could handle the damp, or they were early or mid-season or late. They didn't have cool stores. So you had apples especially, coming on from January all the way through to May to give you food all year round. So we've lost the context that they were grown in, because they were grown for their strength, or they were grown for their flavour. Nowadays we grow them so they can be cool stored, or that because someone overseas likes the flavour, not us. So they're not even being grown for New Zealanders, they've been grown for someone else. Yeah. We grow our apples that have cool store ability. We have apples that can be picked twice, so within a week or 2 weeks, all the apples are cleared out of the orchard. In twice, you're all done with. They don't want an apple that hangs on the tree for 3 months, which is really good in your backyard. So their criteria has changed because of the supermarket. We now have Hass avocado for 98% of the crop because it has the longest shelf life. Not because it's the best eating, but because it sits on the supermarket shelf the longest. Full stop, only reason. I mean, there's at least 24 varieties of avocados around that taste great, but we don't use them because it doesn't suit the supermarket. So the criteria for the food being grown isn't anything to do with what you'd think. It's not because it tastes good, no. It's because it stores well, it can fall a metre and not bruise. You know, it's sweet for the overseas market flavour. All these criteria have nothing to do with us. A lot of the health benefits of, say, fruit is in the skin. It's a chemical defence against bugs attacking. We're just too big and dumb to notice they're toxic. For us, they're healthy. So these trees were being bred to be strong in stressful environments. If you're only growing them in the best environment, and you give it all the water, all the food it needs, and you chemically keep it alive, then you don't need to breed for strength. You can ignore that in your breeding program. And what's happened is, in New Zealand, most of our commercial apples have come from half a dozen parents. So the breeding has come right down. Cox's Orange Pippin and Golden Delicious are two of the, if you want to say what's 50% of our breeding stock, two types. Instead of having 1,000 different apples to choose from, they've now come down to a very, very limited number, because it's exactly over here what the export market wants. When a new bug turns up, or a new disease turns up, and there's nothing in the breeding stock to cover it, you lose the lot. We've a couple of times already, a new bug's turned up, and we've just about lost all our apples. They just about lost the apples. 1890s, mealybug got in, and they had to start again. And grapes had the same trouble. An American disease got into European grapes, and we just about lost the lot. So there's often a point, if you breed them down to a real fine point, if something new comes in, they've got no strength for it, and you can run the risk of losing all your food in one foul swoop. Potatoes was a classic. The disease that wiped out the potatoes was common. It was around all the time. But by crop rotation and moving your crop around, you reduce the risk. But in places like Ireland and Scotland, they were only living on potatoes. So, and year on in, year on out, tilling the same ground with the same crop was just asking for trouble, and it happened. They had a bad time, all the crop got wiped out, and millions died because they were very limited. Heritage stocks give you huge genetic variability. That can cover any problem. Another major part of it is, as we find out, when we offer people heritage fruit, the old varieties, they love them. These are acid sweet, bite and sugar all at the same time. They taste great. People have now been taught that unless it's perfect and red, it's not a real fruit. So in fact, if you look at most of the breeding, they tend to be red now because people have been told a red apple is perfect. So we only have red apples, where they used to be green, yellow, red stripes. They bred them to do different things and to fill roles. No one cooks anymore, so a third of the crop used to be cooking apples, and they've all gone because no one cooks. And they were great. They performed roles. The variability allowed them to fill niches. A whole half a dozen, 50 fruit trees growing in Auckland are not the same 50 fruit trees you'd be growing in Wellington or Invercargill. So they bred them to do jobs in very specific locations, made them much tougher, and that made strength. Nowadays, you go to the garden centre, and the same tree from the same nursery is on sale from Invercargill to Kaitaia. Most of the time it should grow, but it's not ideal for the whole length of the country. That's really pushing it. Some nurseryman's making money at the expense of the poor person who buys it. People are realising that good food is what comes out of your own backyard. And a lot of people are very unhappy with cool stored apples. I mean, after 12 months in the cool store, there is a lowering of quality. And we, and New Zealanders, get dumped on. We get dumped the export fruit that no one else wants. It's not export quality, it's export rejects we get. So something fresh off the tree in your own backyard, yes, it might be misshapen or not perfectly red, but the reality is it's far better, tastes better, better for you. And a lot of these kids are totally dispossessed. They have no idea where their food's coming from. To let them walk through an orchard like this, pick a fruit off the tree and say, that's what you eat. They go, oh, it comes off a tree, not in a 6-pack plastic wrapped container in the supermarket.